Welcome everybody to the channel. This is Erdian from Top Notch Programmer, and today we are building a Gemini app clone using React and JavaScript. So basically we will use the API of Gemini that is absolutely free. It's a large language model built by Google that you can use to build any application, any SaaS, any product that you need to integrate AI inside it. But in this very simple example, we are building a chat app just like this one here. As you can see, we are using React and it has a really simple nav bar here, and also the chat here that you can type directly to Google a large language model, and it memorizes your messages. It works just like AI chat app. So we can test here, hello, how are you doing today? And we can directly send. It's going to show you a typing indicator here, and then it will get the response. As an AI model, I don't have feelings but I'm ready to assist you. How can I help you today? And if I send a request, like when I'm requesting some code or asking for something complex like this, like how can I build a Flask server? It will assist you directly and it will show you the real-time generation. It will generate in real time and also show you this type of animation. And as you can see, it is rendering all the Markdown code that is being generated by the large language model, and it's generating on the real time. As you can see, the code is all generated and rendered in a theme that is, we are using ReactMarkdown to show or to select this. All the type of codes are highlighted on this way. Also, we are using a library called React Highlighter, and it will show you just like a simple AI chat, and you can directly ask for anything else that you need. Okay, so this is what we are building today. It is really simple. We can do it really fast. We don't have to do a lot of configuration. So let's start and do this right now. Okay, so here I am on my computer, and make sure that first you have to install Node.js. So install Node.js in Google, and you can download it from the website because we are going to use this for React. You choose your operating system and go ahead with installation. Then I'll open terminal here on my computer and make sure you have Node by checking the version, Node-V, and it's version 20, and also the npm-v version 10. Okay, so now we are ready to start and create a new React app. So to do that, we are going to use the npx tool, but first I'm going to move into desktop because this is where I want to save it. And I'll use npx, which is an package executor, and we'll execute this package, create React app. And the title will be Gemini clone. This will install React, React DOM, React scripts, and create a template for us. Now the project is created, so I'm going to use VS Code to edit my code. You can use the same code editor if you want because it will help you a lot. And I'll open this, go to VS Code, and I'll open this folder, open folder. And in my desktop, I should have here Gemini clone. Here it is, select it, and it will open project here. So here inside the source, we have some components and some code that we don't really need. So I'm going to delete it. And the first thing is the app has the JS. You can press Ctrl to multiple delete. Also, we don't need logo, report web vitals, and set up tests. Remove all of them. And then go to the index.js and remove this from here, and also this import. And in the app.css, I will delete all this style. Now go to app.js, and here I'll remove this header and also delete this logo import. Okay, now we have a very fresh app, and let's go ahead and install some dependencies that we are going to need during this project clone. To install dependencies and libraries, we use npm-i or npm install, and we need React Markdown, we need Lucid React, React Syntax Highlighter, and also we need Google Generative AI. Okay, for now this is all we need, so just press enter, and this will install all these dependencies in the current project. Okay, now they are installed, and we can start the server by using npm start. As you can see, it's an empty project without any error, just blank page here, and this is what we need. Okay, so I'm going to put this on my side here, and also the code in the other side, and we can start developing this application. Actually, I forgot that we also need to install Tailwind CSS, which is a CSS framework that we are going to use to develop and style it faster. So I'm going to stop the server for a little bit, Control-C, press Y, and I'll go to Google and search for Tailwind CSS in this website. I will search for Tailwind CSS React in this website here, and we have some commands that we have to start. So we have created the project, And now we have to install the Tailwind globally. So I will copy this command and install it, paste it here in the terminal. Okay. Then I will run this Tailwind CSS command to initialize a new file. And this will create a Tailwind config.js. And inside this config file, we have to include this content. So I'll copy only this content and I will replace it with this one here. Okay, save it. And then in the index.css, we have to include all of these here. Below, we can just paste them. And now we are ready to use Tailwind in our project. So I can close it and then I'll start the server again, npm start. Okay, now we can start with developing this project clone. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new component that I will call it chat app. So new file, chat app.js. And I'll use some shortcuts that we have from the React extensions that here on VS Code. So is RFCE, which means React Functional Component with Export. And press enter, this will create a component directly for you. And if I save this and I'll go to app.js and I'll put this component inside this app, use it here, chat app, and this will automatically import it in this file and save it. And we'll show you here chat app, very, very simple. And now we have to modify this chat app here. First, let's import some classes and libraries that we need here on this file or on this component. So first is import send from Lucid React. We also need ReactMarkdown. From ReactMarkdown, we import Prism, and I'll do it as syntax highlighter. So basically, we are importing syntax highlighter that we're going to use for the code. Also, we need a theme from syntax highlighter. So import this VS Code dark plus is just a theme of the code, just like the VS Code that you are showing here from syntax highlighter /dist/ styles esm/styles/prism. So we have this dark theme, and also we need the Google generative AI from Google generative AI. Okay, so this is what we need for now, but later we might export again. Okay, so here first we need some states that we are going to use for our chat app. And the first one is the messages. So all the messages that I will show in the chat, we'll save them in a state. So to create a state here on React, we can directly create two variables, messages, and a function for setting these messages. So set messages, and this will be use state, and inside we'll have an empty list. That is going to be the list of the messages. Okay, so here we have the state of the messages. So something else is the input of the user that we are going to save on state. So set input, and use state will be just an empty text. And also we need to create an indicator of its typing or if it's not. So I'll create a state for this too, is typing. Set is typing. Use state false. By default will be false. And also we need a reference, and this reference is going to be to reference the end of the messages. So every time if you see in the chat apps, it will automatically scroll in the AI chat apps. It will automatically scroll in the end of the messages to show the new messages. So we are going to create a reference that is always going to scroll, that when the messages get updated, it is going to automatically scroll in the end of the chat. So let's create a reference for this. Const message ref, and ref will be use ref, and by default will be null. And also we need a reference for the chat session. So we'll create a chat session ref, use the ref, null. Okay, we got all these states and references here that we'll use later. So now let's directly implement this scroll to bottom of the messages. So I'll create a new function that I will call scroll to bottom. And on this function, we'll just use this message and ref dot current, and with question mark dot scroll into view, and this will automatically scroll into the current view of the component, and behavior will be smooth. So we'll have a smooth scrolling. Okay, and to make this able to scroll every time, you'll use a use effect. So use effect is a hook here on React that can always update or run some code when something changes. So if messages changes, we are going to run this scroll to bottom function that we just created. So use effect, we'll run this hook, we'll take a function and also a list of dependencies. And for dependencies will be messages. So every time the messages change, we'll run what's inside this function. So inside this function, we'll crawl to bottom function. And also we'll create a chat session that will save the history and the messages that we are just doing. So if not chat session dot current, so if we don't have a chat session, we are going to create one. So chat session dot current will be model start chat. And inside this start chat, we'll do some configurations that will be needed by the Google Generative AI. So let's create a generative config, generation config. And inside it, we'll put the temperature 0.9, which is really good, I think, for this generation. And top K will be 1 and top P will be 1, 2. Max output tokens. This is a limitation for how many tokens or words will show. It's 48, 2048. Okay, so the history will be empty list. Okay, for now, I think this is good and it will work. But now let's go ahead and, because we don't have the API yet. So for now, if we save it, we don't have this model yet, which I'm going to create this model from the AI or from a generative AI. And to do this, we also need the API of the Google Gemini. So I'll show you how to get that right now. So I'll go to Google here and Google Gemini API. So this API is free of use and you don't have to pay for anything like the GPTs, like OpenAI APIs, but here the Gemini is free. So click on this first link and go to get keys in the Google AI Studio. Make sure you are logged in. So I have already created. So here I have to click on get API key or just create API key. And this will directly create the API key for you. It's free of charge. You don't have to pay for anything. And I can just directly copy it. I'm showing it right now to you in this video, but I'll delete this key later because I don't want you to use my key. You can get your own one. Okay, so for now we don't have this model, which I'm going to create it right now. But first, to put API keys here on React and other projects, we use environment variables, and I'll create a .env file to save this API key. So here on the current project, here on this project, we'll just directly click on a new file here, and I'll call it this file .env. And here I'll just create a new variable, which I'll call it Gemini API key. And this will be the key that we just copied from the Google Gemini. So just save this and I'll close this file. And now I can directly use this. And it's important to use this .env because we don't want to show directly our API keys in the code if someone else is using our project. Above this component, we'll create a variable for generative AI. This will be a new Google generative AI that we just imported. And inside this, we'll put the API key. So to get the API key from the environment file, we use process.env.Gemini API key. So we got the key, we created the Google Generative AI. So now we have to create a model. So const model will be genAI.getGenerative And here we have to pass the model that we want to get. So model will be Gemini 1.5-Pro. So this is a Pro, but it's free version. And it works really well for this chat app. I have tested and you can use this one too. But you have other models too that you can just explore in the Google Gemini documentation. Okay, so we have this model that we are using it here. So now if I save it, okay, so maybe it shows now model is not defined. Maybe we have to stop the server and run again. So let's stop it, start again. And you must provide a model name. Example, get generative AI model. and we have model. Oh, actually I put here mode, not model. So model, okay. Now we got it working because we can see that we have the chat app here. And we have the model, we have everything we need. Now I have to create a little bit the chat app. Okay, so in this side is this chat app in this div. We'll put here a class name, and here on Tailwind we can use class names directly. So I'll use flex and flex column, age screen, and background bg-gray-100. So we'll have a gray background, and as you can see, changed a little bit. And inside this div, I will put some styles here. Use JSX because we are doing inside the JSX code, and it will be global. But for now, I will leave this empty styles because I'm going to use these styles later. I'm going to do inline style, inline CSS for custom CSS, and I'm not going to create a new file for that. So inside here, I'll create first a header, and header will have a class name of bg-blue-600 dot. We can add another, by pressing dot, we can add another class directly here on VS Code, text-white dot p-4. And if you press enter, this will directly create this header with all the class name that we included. So here inside this, we are going to create a new h1 with a class name of text 2xl and font -bold. And inside this text, we'll have just a Gemini clone or Gemini chat. And here we have the header. So it's very simple to use Tailwind. We can directly build something. Okay, so below the header, we'll create a div with a class flex1-1 overflow-y-auto. So it'll be an overflow auto and p-4. And inside this, we are going to map or show all the messages. So to loop through all the messages, we'll use some JSX here inside JavaScript, and we have the messages variable from the state dot map. So we're going to map or loop through all of them, and I'll call this one instance of this mapping. I'll call it message, and also we need to get index, and we will return. First, we'll create a div here. Okay, so you can put them on brackets here, messages and index. And here I'll create a div, and the key will be the index we just imported, index. For the class name, I'll put some code, JavaScript code inside this class name, and I'll use backticks, and I'll include this mb-4. And also I can use JavaScript using a $sign. And inside this $sign, I will check if the message.user.sender equal to user. So if it equals user, we'll put a class, and this class with question mark will be text-right, or else with a column will be text left. Okay, so I forgot that this backtick need to be closed here. Okay, now it should be good. If I save it, here it have. Okay, so this div will have inside another div with the class name, another div here, and the class name, I'm going to use the same method with using JavaScript, and with backticks, we'll include inline block p-2 and also rounded for rounded corners .large. And now we can include some JavaScript to check. We have to check the message.sender is user. So here, if we have user again with question mark, we want to add this background bg-blue-500 and also text-white. Or else with column, we want to add just an AI message class name, which I'm going to style it later. So inside this div too, finally, we have to put the message. But for now, let's put some messages to show you as an example. So inside this div, I'm going to put directly the message, but here on the state, I'm going to create some dumb data here. And the first one will be this one. So sender will be user, and text will be hello. And also let's create a new response. So sender AI, hello, how are you today? Okay, so we save it and we have a, okay, so here in the message, we have to put message.text. Okay, so here we have the message of the user, which is hello, and it will show like blue background because we choose here when we was checking that if the message is user, we do the text right or text left. So for user, we'll do right, and for the AI, we'll do left. And here we're also checking if the if user, we have to put this background blue, or we can do red like this, or any type of background we want. But for now, this is a blue theme, and the text will be white. And for this AI message, I will do the create a new class or custom CSS for that. Okay, now we have to check again. So I'm going to remove this. This was just for example, but I'm going to remove it. I'm going to check if the sender is again user. Then I want to return this code. Otherwise, I return another code. Okay, so here on the first one, I'm going to directly return message.text for if it is user, because we don't need to render anything. But for the second one, if it's not, if it's AI, we are going to render the markdown, and we're going to create a React Markdown here. So here I'm going to use React Markdown component that we have imported, and I will close it. And this is going to take some attributes. And the first one is, this will take a class name that we'll create later. And for the class name, with backticks, I'll write pros and max-w none for the max width. And also we're using JavaScript code here. With JSX, we'll do message.isGenerating. We want to show typing animation. Otherwise, we'll show nothing. And also it will take not just the class name, but we'll take this components, and components will be markdown component that we'll create later, because for now we don't have this. And actually we don't need to close this directly, but we have to close this on this way. So React Markdown, and inside this React Markdown we are going to put the message. So message.text, or so if it's thinking or if it's generating, we are going to show this thinking, and this needs to be on quotes, and otherwise we'll do show the message. Okay, so we don't have this markdown component. Yes, I know, and I'm going to create it in a little bit. But for now, maybe let's go and comment this line here, because I don't want to show the error, because I want to style a little bit and create some other typing animations and other things that we need here. Below these two divs, I will check if is typing. If it's typing, then I want to return a new div with these classes. So text-left, and inside this div we have another div with a class inline block p2 rounded-lg dot background bg-gray-300. Okay, press enter. This will create the div, and we'll show here typing. Here also we'll create the and ref for this div. So reference, this is going to be the end of the messages, which are going to create a reference that we have created before. So ref will be message and ref. So this is all where we're going to be scrolling, where new messages are generated. Okay, so the last thing we need is the input where the user will put the message. So below this div, we'll create a form with a class name or of p-4, and also background white, bg-white. And here we have the form, the action. I'm going to remove the action, but on submit, we'll create a function for later. So on submit, so every time this subform is submitted, we are going to run a handle submit function. And we don't have this yet, so I'm going to create it and leave it empty for now. So below this use effect, we'll create this function, handle submit, and I will leave this empty for the moment. Just do not show the error. And inside this form, we'll have a div with the class names flex to use flexbox and items center. This is all Tailwind CSS. So let's create the input now with class names of flex p2 border rounded dash l dash lg focus column outline dash none focus ring dash 2 dash none, and we press enter. This will create all of them for us. So we created all the classes for this input, and the type is text, and the class name, okay, these class names, and value will be the value of the input. So it will be the input of the from the state placeholder type message. Okay, so as you can see, if you see here below, you'll see the type the message will show here, and also on change. So every time on it changes, we want to change the state too. So on change, we'll take a function which will get as parameter the event. We'll set the input to e.target.value, and now if we type something, it will change the state directly, so the input state. Now let's create also a button. So button will have these class names of p-2 bg blue 500 text dash white rounded r lg over bg blue 600 focus outline none, and inside we'll have this send with a size of 24 that we have imported from React Lucid. Okay, but we can just directly close it in line, not like that with tags. If we save this, here we have the icon of send, and we can directly type here. This is actually not showing full of the width, so let's me try to fix that. Oh, actually this needs to be flex-1, not just flex, and this will make it full width. So every time we type, it's not going to do anything, but we'll fix this later. Okay, so here now in this handle submit, we have to write some code, and this is going to be an asynchronous function because we are running or sending requests to the API, and they are going to not be directly responses. So first we have to use async in this function. And inside this function, we are going to also get the e or event as a parameter, and we are going to e.prevent default, and this function is going to make to not refresh when we press the submit button. So now if I press submit, it's not going to refresh because we are preventing this. Then what we need to do is if input check first if and we have an empty input, so input dot trim return none. So if we don't have an input, we are going to just return nothing. Otherwise, we'll set messages to previous messages and create a list with the prev messages. This means that we are going to also get the previous messages of the previous state that we have before in the set and the messages, and then we'll create a new one for this, and the sender will be user and the text will be the input. We'll also make the input box empty, and the set is typing will become true now, because now that we send a message, the AI will start to think. So let me test this, and if I send a message here, hello, it will show there only the user message, and it will show typing for the AI. How are you? And these are just examples. So we are just handling the user input, but now we have to handle the output of the AI. And for this, we'll just do a try catch block, try. And we'll have catch because we are sending response to the API. And for this error, we just do console log this error. I'll call it maybe error because it's better to understand. And after that, we'll set typing to typing to false. And also I will set a message. I'll copy this exactly same thing, and I'll create a message that there was an error to show in the chat. So I'll use the previous messages, and also the sender will be AI, and the text will be sorry, there was an error. And also we'll add is generating to false. So if you have an error, we'll send this message here. Otherwise, we're going to send a request to the model of the API. To do that, we'll create a full response first. Let full response equal to empty. We are going to modify this later. And now let's send a request, and we'll use result. We'll create a new result variable, and with await chat session dot current dot send message stream. Send message stream. We are using this function for streaming because we want to stream the response in the real time. So now we'll set the messages to the previous messages that we need to get, and we'll do ... prev to save the messages that was before, and then we'll create a new object with sender AI, and text will be empty for now, and is generating, it will be true. Okay, so we put these messages into our state. Now we have to generate in the real time using chunks. So we are going to split the stream into different chunks using a for loop. So for await, and inside this we'll create a variable chunk of result that we have from the result.stream. So from this stream we'll get all the chunks, and we'll get the chunk text, and the chunk text will be chunk.text. In full response, we are going to update this with a chunk, so plus equal chunk text. So we're going to add this chunk to the full response that we have created here on the beginning. It was empty. So we are adding chunks one by one. Then I'm going to copy this send message again, and I'll do it here. And instead of just doing prev, here we're going to do prev.slice. We're going to cut this preview to this position 0, -1. And instead of just doing empty text here, we're going to put the full response. So we're going to put the full response that is being updated all the time in the for loop here. And it's generating will be true. And then we'll do again the same thing. I'm going to copy this again because I want to change the generating to false this time. So after everything is generated, we'll turn it to false again. And also is typing. Actually, I make a mistake. I don't have to put this inside the loop, the for loop. So this will be outside the loop. So after looping all the chunks and putting them in the response, we want to put the generating to false, and also is typing. Set is typing to false. Now everything should be good. Maybe we can test it right now. So let's refresh. Okay, if I send hello, shows there was an error. And okay, so let's check the console. So right click, inspect, I'll open the console here and inspect, and shows API key is not valid. Please place a valid API key. Okay, so the API key should be correct because I just copied, but let me check here. We get the API key from .env. Okay, so I think the mistake is here. So Gemini, not Gemini. Okay, so I did a typo here. So if I save this, run again, it's invalid. Okay, so I'm going to directly copy this and paste it directly here on this. So I'm going to remove this environment process and I'll paste the API key here. Let's try this time. Refresh. Okay, so this time is working. Hello, how can I help you today? Tell me a story. Okay, so it's generating on the real time, as you can see. Okay, it works. It works this time. It shows the typing and then it removes the typing indicator. Okay, it's working perfect. Looks like there was a problem with the environment variable, but we are going to fix that later. Okay, so let's jump into where we left. We got the user message, the AI message, and now we have to design this a little bit. And also we have to fix the React Markdown, because if we ask for some code, show me a for loop on Java. If we ask this for code, it will show the code on this way, but we maybe can generate or in a more beautiful way that it will automatically detect the code and then show it in the format of the code, in the style of the code. But if you can see the bold stuff here is being rendered successfully by the React Markdown, but we have to use a React highlighter to highlight the code here. Okay, so let's do this right now. So if you remember, we created a Markdown component here that we was passing it inside the React Markdown. So here are components. I'm going to uncomment this and I will use this component and I will create this right now. So I'll go up and here after the handle submit function, I'm going to create a new Markdown component, and this will be equal to this object where it's going to have a code. Inside with this code, we'll handle the node, inline, class name, children, and prop. So now we'll create a match that is going to match when I have code to check if we have a programming language, it will match it and put the styles on it then. So match will be dash language. Use this syntax, and then this is called a regex, so just a type of language. I just copied from somewhere in the internet or from the AI, and then I put that here. So it's going to put the class name. Otherwise, here inside, otherwise we want to leave it empty. Then we want to return, and if not inline and match, then we want to return syntax highlighter, so that we have imported that before, and it's going to have the style. Style will be the VS Code that we have imported it from the top. So VS Code dark plus. Language will be this match that we just created, and pre-tag with capital will be div. And also we pass the props. So inside the syntax highlighter, we put string children dot replace slash backslash and $sign and slash again empty string. Okay, so here we have a syntax highlighter. Then otherwise here, else, what we want to do here is to show a code tag, code, and inside that we'll just put children, just normal text, not highlighted. And this will have a class name of the class name, and also have the props. Okay, so I managed to fix this problem, and it was with the syntax highlighters. Looks like it wasn't being imported successfully here on the top. So make sure to import it just like this. Import Prism as a syntax highlighter from React syntax highlighter, and make sure to also have the same Markdown component. I also added these for H1, H2, and H3, but also even if you delete them, it will still work same. The last thing I want to do is to create a typing or generating animation, and we'll do this very simple animation with opacity. So we'll change the opacity from 0 to 100 and from 100 to 0, and it will show like a generating animation that will look good. Okay, so let's do that. It's going to be very simple. We'll do this inside this inline code that we have here, inline CSS. So if you remember, I put some style here and I left this empty, but here I can put some CSS code if I want. And I already have used is typing animation. Use and implement this CSS class inside this style. But first, let's create the animation of typing, and I'll use keyframes. So keyframe typing, and I'll do 0% opacity will be 0.3. I'll copy this. I'll do one for 50 and one for 100. So this will be 50%, and on 50%, we want to have the opacity to 1, and on 100%, I will put this to 0.3 again. So we have this keyframe, and something else I want to do. And now let's get this typing animation class, and inside this class I'll create an animation, and the name will be typing that we just created, and will be in 1.5 second and will be infinite. Okay, so all this code here needs to be actually on backticks. So here in the beginning I forgot to put backticks, and in the end, okay, it's not working again. So I know what's the problem here. First we have to remove this from here, and I'll put it here. So this curly brackets with this backtick will be inside, so we'll include all the text here. And here I also need another curly brackets, and I think this should work now. How to build a Node.js server. Okay, now it's working. As you can see, it is changing the opacity from 0.3 to 1 while it's generating, and it will look like an animation. Okay, so it's working perfect, guys. As you can see, it's typing and generating on the real time using generative AI of Google and Gemini. And you can build pretty much any application. You can use these responses to build any other things that you need, and it's all free. That's the good point, because the previous videos I used the OpenAI GPT, which is paid, but this one is absolutely free. You can do anything. You can directly use it in any project. So this was the video for today, guys. Hope you'll like it. Let's smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next video next week. Peace.